everyone. It's Captain Kyle Smith, and this week I sat down for a morning meeting with San Diego firefighter paramedic Luke Manns. Luke has been grinding away since he came on back in 2012. Through his consistent action and focusing on the fundamentals, he's now well on his way towards financial independence. Hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, hey Luke, welcome to the bullpen. Thanks for meeting me.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Yeah, brother, I'm excited to have you on here. It's a long time coming. We're gonna learn more about you in your first alarm here, but we go back a long ways, and I'm just stoked to have you here in the bullpen.
Thanks, man. Anything you need, let me know, and I'll happy to help. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. How have you guys been kind of coping with the pandemic? I know you have a little one at home. How that cannot be easy for a family where both mom and dad are working.
Yeah, it's been tough. They shut down my boy's school not too long ago for 2 weeks. One of the kids tested positive for COVID, so they shut down his school, which is difficult. Obviously, childcare for, like you mentioned, my wife's a nurse, 24 hours for me, 12 hours for her. Luckily, my mom lives here, so she can help out. But then as far as the pandemic in general, we've lost some travel time, traveling over to Texas. My wife's from Texas, so we go back there a couple of times a year. Haven't been able to do that, but other than that, we're still getting out, still having a good time, enjoying each other's company, and making the best of it.
Yeah, man, that's what we're all trying to do. I want to just say thank you to both you guys for your service. This has been a trying time for everybody, but particularly when you have both of you guys on the front lines fighting this thing. I know that's been difficult, and hopefully we're kind of now starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. I know that a lot of folks have been getting the vaccine, and the follow-up one, I guess, is 3 weeks later or whatever. But hopefully we're getting close.
I'm ready. I'm ready to get on an airplane and go somewhere.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, right on. Well, I can't promise you an airport or an airplane, but I can promise you a first alarm. So you ready to get that thing going?
Let's get it going.
Right on. Well, you will know, Luke, that first alarm assignment at San Diego Fire Department consists of 4 engines and a truck. But here at the Firehouse, I'll ask you 4 questions. You give us 1 piece of advice. You ready?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, you know that when you're first in, you got to give a size up. So a size up is who you are, where you work, and how long you've been doing it.
All right. So my name's Luke Manns. I'm born and raised here in the city of San Diego. And right now I work at Station 12 in Lincoln Park. Been there for coming up on 2 years now. And I've been on the job 8 years as a firefighter. Before that, on the ambulance for quite some time, which is where I met you. But on the job at the fire department, got hired December 2012.
Right on. Those folks that are listening that aren't familiar with our city, or in particular where Lincoln Park's at, can you just describe for them where that's at?
Well, it's right by Lincoln High School. That is, if you're not familiar with that, doesn't make much of a difference. But it's like Southeast San Diego, lower socioeconomic group. But it's a busy firehouse. Go to fires, go to a lot of medical aids, and it's my favorite station on the job. I have pretty much the seniority to go to any station I want, and I'm not going anywhere. That's the one I picked, and I love it there.
Yeah, I know the feeling, man. I spent some time there myself in the back seat, and Station 12 holds a special place in everybody's heart that bids in there, just because it is an awesome place to be. It's with folks that are like-minded, that like being busy. They like to work hard. They like to train. They get a lot of experience coming out of there, and it's just a great place to be. The people there are super appreciative to what services our fire department provides them, and like all of us, they're struggling through this whole pandemic too, and it feels good to be able to give them that high level of customer service that I know you guys are carrying on there at 12. So well done on that.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man. So just moving on, we've known each other for a long time, since before you even came on the job, since back when I was new on the job, which wasn't that long ago. But back in those days, even for me, financial literacy, financial education wasn't even on my mind. I was just trying to see if I could remember, which compartment carried all the medical aid gear back in those days, right? And what back then, what about you? What sort of background did you have in financial literacy?
Well, I graduated from San Diego State with a business degree, but that doesn't mean a whole lot, right? I just studied a lot more besides business while I was there. But I always had, like, in the forefront, my dad was a bit of a dreamer. He had a house here, then he had some property in Colorado as well, him and my mom, like a vacation home. And this was before Airbnb, before VRBO. So my dad was on the forefront, I think, of like financial literacy. He wasn't a finance guy, but he was always watching Mad Money on CNN and following the stock market. And he would always say, "Hey, give me $5,000. I'll give you $7,500 at the end of the year." And listening to him, and then now listening to podcasts, has kind of increased my awareness of financial literacy so that I can make better decisions, not for me, but for my family. I want to spend more time at home and less time at work and just enjoying their company. So that's what financial literacy is for me. And obviously what you're doing has been a great help. And yeah, that's pretty much what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we all hold this, similar sentiments where, it's not that we don't love the job. It's not like that we don't love being at work. It's that we love being here more. Right. And we're trying to work hard so that we can enjoy the time that we have here at home. Not that we're not grateful for what we have and what this job has given us and the foundation that it's provided for our families. But like everybody else, man, we want to be home. We want to be able to spend time with the ones that we love the most. And I think that just rings true for everyone. It is nice though that your dad had that little bit of background. He had that little bit of foresight to get involved in real estate early on and kind of pass some of those lessons on down to you. Not everybody's like that. Not everybody comes on with really any amount of financial literacy. So I'm sure you must feel fortunate for that education that you were given.
Oh, definitely. It's invaluable. You know what I mean? Seeing what they did, learning from their mistakes, yeah, it's helped me make my own decisions a little bit better,
Yeah, for sure. And that's the whole intent of the Firehouse in general, is to carry on that conversation so that we can push this information out. Maybe you can share with us today, and maybe we'll get into it later on in your first alarm, some of the mistakes that your dad made or some of the mistakes that you've made to help us so that we're not making those same mistakes ourselves. And that's what all this is about.
Sure, yeah.
So you mentioned you came on 2012.
Correct. Yeah. December 2012.
Yeah. So share for people that maybe aren't familiar with our system, share with them what was significant about coming on the San Diego Fire Department at that time.
So I was the first academy not to be given a pension. So we had a no longer defined benefit. It was a big Prop B article in politics, and then it got approved. Since it's been in legal battles to be proven illegal, but we're still fighting that fight today. But I was the first academy not to be awarded a pension. So the city matches 11% of my income, and then I throw in 11% so that is quote unquote our retirement.
So is it more like a 401k sort of retirement? What sort of retirement?
Yeah, they call it a SPH, which is a supplemental pension savings plan or something like that. I think that's what it stands for. But it's a 401k type benefit that we have post 2012.
Yeah. So everybody that came on after 2012 is in this SPH. Different than a pension, it's a defined contribution. So like Luke said, he's contributing 11% of his gross income, and the city is matching that amount. And that goes into a pot that is being managed outside of your control. It's being managed by somebody else. And it has the potential to do some really great things. It's going to be dependent on what the stock market does and the asset allocation that you put into that fund. The difference between that and what people that came on prior to that is with a defined benefit. So for all of the folks that came on before that, they all know exactly how much money they're going to get each month and can use that to kind of set their plans in place or their goals in place, knowing that, short of the city going bankrupt or something, they can rely on that money. So while the SPSVH for me isn't ideal, I do see how there are some benefits to it. Some things that folks need to understand though, that are in that sort of retirement system, whether it's here in San Diego or elsewhere, is you run the risk of, it's called the sequence risk of returns, that if you walk off the job and you retire in a period when the market is really down or deflated, or we're in a depression or something, that's going to have a serious impact on how much money that you can withdraw. It's, how much your drawdown that you can do. Because if you're in a depression like that, your overall amount of money in that account is obviously going to be dependent on that. And what'll happen is if you are making plans based on X amount of money each month and you're in a depression like that, you're going to have to seriously recalculate. You're going to have to seriously readjust, may even have to stay on the job a little bit longer until that market starts to come back up. So it is something for people to be aware of. If you're not familiar with it, I'll link an article about sequence risk in the show notes there. So with that being said, Luke, like without you sharing, really your personal information, how did you even know about the SPSBH? What did you know about your asset allocation inside that fund? What have you done to be proactive in terms of figuring out that fund and then stuff outside of that?
Well, I didn't know anything when I got hired. I just wanted to get on the job. It was my dream to work for the San Diego Fire Department. I mean, I didn't know how much I was making, and I just want to get on the job. I was passionate about the job, wanted to learn the job, still am. So I didn't know anything about my retirement when I got hired. Then I started wheels started turning. Okay, hey, I got 6 months on the job. What are you guys talking about? Pension? What is people working sitting down at the table? People talking to me about 401k, put it in at 457 so that you can get decrease your taxable liability and then increase your taxable your income rather. So when you first get in the Prop B, you get like the most conservative tier, and if you don't change that, it's going to be that. So after talking probably with you and some other folks, I went and saw a financial planner that had a friend that worked at Wells Fargo. He was pretty literate with all this stuff, knew what he was doing. And so I went every 6 months, every year, once a year, and made sure that my allocations were appropriate based on my income, based on, now I have a family, if you want to put money away for college for my son or what have you, but it's ever changing. So I just wanted to make sure that I was utilizing the correct resources so that I can change with the environment that I'm in. And so now I'm using a fiduciary that you recommended, actually, Jeff over there in Coronado. Been speaking with him so that we can just make sure that, hey, here's my investments. It's a pretty diverse portfolio. I just want to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. But I pretty much had to take on all that information myself. I didn't have anybody, like I was expecting maybe someone on the job or like the local 145 maybe help us out, but it was brand new to them too. Nobody knew really. So we're all learning together now. I think we've got some people on the job that are able to help out and steer us in the right direction.
Yeah, no, for sure. That Prop B thing was a disaster. It's still being fought in the courts, like you mentioned. It looks like it's going to get overturned and we'll be able to become whole again, bring you guys all back into the pension system, which is just fantastic news. It's been proven to be an illegal proposition, but without getting into all the details of that, yeah, I think the local, they just didn't really know, right? They didn't know how this was all going to shake out. And they were also hopeful that the day would come where we got you guys back into the pension system. You mentioned Jeff. I'll link to his card. I had him on the morning meeting here recently, and he's just a fantastic guy. Just a wealth of knowledge, is a fiduciary, which is important for anybody that's out there listening, interested in finding a financial planner. Make sure that they're a fiduciary. They'll be acting in your best interest with no conflict of interest there. One thing you touched on, Luke, which was really important that I don't want to gloss over. You're talking about rebalancing your portfolio about once a year or so, every 6 months. It's important for people to know that that is really, really important to rebalance, but don't do it like all the time. Just, you should be setting these investments up, not set it and forget it, but sort of a little more arm's distance, meaning don't be in there every time you see the market move. Don't be in there rebalancing. No, just pick a date, 1 or 2 days a year. Maybe it's your birthday, your wife's birthday, maybe it's your anniversary or whatever. Go in there and rebalance. And all rebalancing is it's a way for you to get back in there and adjust your holdings so that they're in alignment with your asset allocation, your risk tolerance, and your investment goals. And once you've done that, you get in there and you see, let's say you're I'm not saying this is you, but this is just a generality. You're 80% stocks and 20% bonds. And you go in there to rebalance once or twice a year and you see that your asset allocation, that percentage is a little out of whack. Well, all you have to do is just either sell a little bit of the stocks, buy a little bit of the bonds to get back in that right proportion, vice versa, or maybe you're doing good and you just leave it alone. But it is important to go in there, take a look, resist the temptation of rebalancing all the time, because what you're going to wind up doing is timing the market. And that's been proven time and time again throughout history. Nobody has ever been able to successfully do that. If they had, we would know about it, right? They would be the most powerful people in the world. And with that, we would know their names. So with that being said, you're on the right track. You're doing a great job. But other than seeking out a financial advisor who's a fiduciary, has your best interest in mind, figuring out, where these monies were going, what fund they were in, who to talk to, doing all this stuff, which is great. You're being proactive. You're taking steps to secure your financial health. What's some other stuff that you've been up to, maybe outside the job?
Like teach at Miramar College. That's a lot of very common, side job that firefighters have in San Diego. So it's pays well. It's less time. Like I said, it can do that 4 or 5 hours and then come home and see the family. And then in 2014, I had 2 years on the job. I had saved up every dollar I've had since I was 16, started working when I was 16 years old. And then in 2014, I bought a duplex in Ocean Beach. I was paying rent. My wife and I were paying rent. My parents were paying rent. We said, hey, we're wasting that money. Let's combine our rental buying power and buy a duplex. So I bought a duplex in 2014, and then my parents moved in the back, and then my wife and I moved in the front. And then with building up that sweat equity, because the place was not good, so we put in that sweat equity to now we can demand rents based on what we had before. It would not have rented for very much. Now with what we have obviously the location's great, but what we've done I think you even helped me pull some ceiling and pull some drywall off that one. But
I know I definitely
sweat
helped
equity.
you. I know I definitely helped you drink some beer. I don't know how much help I was actually able to do there with the drywall.
Exactly.
I definitely held up the wall and drank some beer though. I remember that.
I think Kaylee was kicking her soccer ball on that. Knocking down the jar with her soccer ball. Yeah. But now we're able to command higher rents, But those two things I think have been my biggest things. Just that duplex, obviously, because I'm in the situation where I like to buy and hold. I don't want to buy and sell. I'm not looking for that short-term property. I'm looking to potentially give my son, hey, here's 5 properties. They're all yours. You can handle it now. That's my long-term goal. Here's 5 properties, maybe more, what have you. And so that's what I'm working on, buying and holding, and having a duplex that just covers the mortgage. I'm fine with. As long as it just covers the mortgage, it's fine by me.
No, that's awesome, man. That is just such an awesome way of doing it. And actually a really common way too, for folks to get involved in investing in real estate is buying a property that is undervalued and then getting in there and putting in the work yourself. Maybe you hire out the stuff that you can't do yourself, but then you contact your buddies, you contact the hacks that like me to come over and maybe pull down some ceilings and drywall and whatever else. And then you put it back together and you make you added value to your property. From there, you can either increase the rents. You're not gonna gouge anybody, but you can bring the rents up to what a fair market value would be.
Exactly.
Maybe you could pull some equity out and use that chunk of money to go buy another property. Maybe that's a route that you could take, or you could just buy and hold and let it ride and slowly let inflation and that appreciation work its magic. And then over time, then you have something really great to pass down. But what I love to hear you saying is you're starting with the end in mind. That at some point you want to leave something great for your family. And it's a really motivating thing to do, but it allows you to, if you start with the end in mind, then you can backtrack and go step by step backwards to where you're sitting at right now and deconstruct that thing and know that this is my vision, this is my goal. I just have to do these steps to get there. And it makes everything so much more attainable that way, so much more, it's like tangible that way. And it's easier, at least for me, it's easier when I do it like that. It's easier for me to just check each step off on the way there.
Yeah, going back to what you said too, is like pulling out equity in the home. Right now, we all know that those interest rates are cheap. It's cheap money. You can build up that place, have your buddies come over, do a work party, and then next thing you know, you go to refi the house or you do a HELOC based on the appraisal, and it appraises for way more, and you're getting it's just, you're not going to find cheaper money right now, or like what, 2-3%, depending on what your interest rate is and what you qualify for. But it's cheap money, and I'm taking that money and going to reinvest it in another property, so that next thing, and I'm going to do the same thing. Buy that worst house on the best block, we're having another work party, refi, do it. I mean, that's just a domino effect. You know what I mean?
For sure. Something tells me I'm like getting signed up for a little more demo work here, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Circling back, you mentioned you're teaching at Miramar College. For those folks, again, who aren't from around here that don't know, Miramar College is a junior college here in town. A lot of our folks teach EMTs and some fire science classes there. It's a really awesome way for our guys to kind of have a little side hustle there. People ask a lot, man, about, I got a tax refund back, or I got this chunk of money, or, I have a little bit of extra cash. Should I pay off my house? Should I pay off my mortgage, more quickly? Man, for me, it's all about like how inexpensively can I get this money, or how inexpensively can I use this money? So if I have a chunk of money, for me, in my mind, it doesn't make a lot of sense to pay down my mortgage more quickly, because that interest rate is so low. I feel like I could make more money investing easily. I can make more than the 2.875% easily in the market or in real estate or elsewhere, instead of just paying that money down, paying that mortgage down. So for me, it doesn't really make sense. I understand the psychological piece of this, not having any debt. That's a really awesome feeling, I'm sure. But for me, in this phase of life, and for you, I'm sure it's the same, where maybe you call it the accumulation phase of life. And for me, I feel like I could make better investment choices elsewhere than paying down that mortgage. In my opinion, everybody's a little bit different, but that's the way I feel.
My dad was the same exact way. He said we're never paying this house off.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we owe 100,000, guess what? We're gonna refi, and I'm gonna take that $500,000 in equity, and I'm gonna buy another place. He goes, we're never paying this house off.
Yeah.
It's gonna be yours, and you're gonna own the debt. What are you gonna do? Pay down and refi and do it over and over. So yeah, you and I have talked about that. If you can earn back more than 3%, then why are you paying it off early?
Yeah, no, it's a no-brainer. I think back in the day when my first mortgage, man, I think was like 7.5%. So back in those days is like, or even before, when it's in like the teens, you're getting a mortgage in the teens, then it makes sense, right? Get this off the books as soon as possible. But in today's day and age, with these rates, how low they are, for me, it doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that's the only way, but it's one way. And it sounds like you and your dad were on the same page. I mean, from what I'm hearing, dude, you guys are crushing it, even though it may not feel like it all the time. But it's not always smooth sailing when you're in real estate, when you're in the stock market. You make mistakes. You mentioned dad's made mistakes. Do you have a favorite mistake, something that you learned from, something that maybe it knocked you down a little bit, but then once you picked yourself back up, you're like, you know what? Okay, I learned from that. Now I can move on.
It was a little, being a first time quote unquote landlord, you know what I mean? I didn't have that emergency fund that you talked about. I remember listening to Tim Roll he talked about it. Everyone talks about it, really. But I was paying the water. The water was included in the rent, right? So the water bill that month was $700. I go, hey, you guys put a pool in? What's going on here? You know what I mean? Usually it's $80. Now it's $700. We talk about renters. They want it fixed now, right? They come and fix it now. Or they just don't even tell you. Oh, there was a water leak, but it wasn't bothering me, whatever. So they didn't tell you. I'm not paying the water bill. I get the water bill, $700 for a 1 month of water. So that was a big eye opener that, hey, it's the water bill now, but what could it be? Could it be, electric cooler? Could it be, hey, it rains and the roof is gone. We need a new roof. So me right now, I'm just building up that emergency fund so that I don't get that shock value. It's almost an anticipated thing that eventually one of these things is going to happen. And then living by like that 50, 30, 20 rule, you know what I mean? Have 50% is paying off what I need, 30% what I want, and that 20% is that savings, especially for this type of quote unquote emergency,
Oh, I love that. Can you just say that again? Is it the 50-30-20 rule?
Yeah, the 50-30-20 rule is like 50% of your income, you're going to pay it. That's what you need to pay for what you need. 30% is going to be for what you want to do. And then 20% is going to be that savings plan.
Awesome.
And that's kind of what we've adopted right now. It's just to kind of help us get ahead, you know?
Oh, it's brilliant, man. If you can even save 10% of your income, you're doing great. That was one that Zeke Sanchez mentioned from a morning meeting back a few months ago. I'll link to his morning meeting here. He said some advice that his dad gave him is if you could save 10% of every dollar, when you get to retirement, you're going to be just blasting off. And you guys are saving 20% of every dollar. So, man, that is just absolutely outstanding. Well done. That thing about the reserves, having enough reserves on hand for when whatever happens, because something is going to happen, is so important. It's more important than almost anything else, is having that emergency fund set up. You know, pay down your commercial credit card debt, your consumer debt, all that other stuff, but then you have to have that emergency fund in place. Otherwise, none of this stuff makes any sense, because what is going to happen is you're going to get a $700 utility bill that you didn't see coming, and it's going to wipe you out if you have to put that on a credit card that's you're being charged 20% on. So yeah, that reserves thing, or the emergency fund, like you call it, is so important. That can't be emphasized enough. And you're right. Tim Robles was talking about it. I mean, almost everybody that comes on here says the same thing. As long as, you know, if you're involved in real estate for any period of time, you will know that, and you're either going to learn it the hard way, or you're going to learn by the mistakes that the rest of everybody else has done prior to all this. So just please do build up that little emergency fund, or have your reserves on hand before you get into any of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Right on. Looking back, Luke, you know, you talked about some of the mistakes that you've made. You talked about some of the really awesome fundamentals that you're taking care of, which is great, man. What piece of advice would you give somebody that came on after 2012 that's now in this post-Prop B, SPSBH type retirement? We're all here. I think most of us are here with fingers crossed, thinking and hoping that it gets overturned and we get everybody back into the pension. But I would just hope that everybody is here listening to you, getting inspired to take action and take responsibility for their financial well-being. But with that in mind, man, what would you tell them? What's one piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah, I know you and I have talked about this, but you know, we don't want to quote unquote count on the city for anything, right? That's our goal. We have this pension, or we have this Prop B type of deal, but ideally we're have little side gigs or real estate or investments that potentially, worst comes worst, the city does go bankrupt. Well, hey, okay, own a couple of homes, we'll have to sell a couple, or we can rent them out, or what have you. You know what I mean? So not being reliable, not having that 100% vested interest, and if the city doesn't provide for me, then I'm done. Because then it's just like you talk about multifamily properties. One person moves out, you're on the hook for 100% of the mortgage, right? So not having to rely on that city, and then realizing that when you're in Prop B, they're going to put you in that most conservative tier, right? That's just automatically put in there. So if you don't take a look at it, have the conversation, you know, I would say surround yourself with some people that are like-minded, similar situations potentially, and that are interested in this as well. Hey, let's find out. Let's get together. There's 4 people on a rig for a reason. We all see things a little differently. So combining those minds to maybe potentially have a better investment or a better strategy, so that you and your family are better off in the end, you know? Yeah,
dude, that's awesome, man. I love that. I asked you for 1, you gave us 3. That's the kind of guy you are. I really appreciate that. But no, man, it's true. Like nothing drives me more insane than, you know, driving back from a call or something, and you know, nobody's even talking to each other. The captain's looking out the window, the guys in the back seat are looking at their phones or whatever. No, maybe that's a chance on the way back from a call or something to have these conversations. Maybe it's at the fire station. Maybe it's on your day off, man. You know, the point is that you have to take action, right? You have to be accountable. You have to do something. Take one step today, and then take another one tomorrow, and just continue down the path. And then eventually you can look back in 20 years and know that, man, I did everything I could to provide the sort of life, the sort of financial stability that I've dreamt of. And I think if you do that, you're going to find that you will be successful. But what you're talking about with not just relying on the city or this paycheck is multiple streams of income, so that if something goes wrong at the city, you still have some rental income coming in, or some money from the stock market or whatever. That's in our nature, man. That's who we are as professional rescuers, man. We're always putting in a backup line, right? You don't just attack a fire with a primary, you attack it with a primary and a backup, and then you're also going to have an exposure line. Maybe you're going to put another one around the back, whatever. You're going to go rappelling. We're not going to just go down on the main line. You're also going to have a belay line, right? And these are rated at thousands and thousands of pounds. So it's in our nature to have these backups in place. With the same thing applies in your financial well-being, man, is you just got to put these backup plans in place. But above anything else, you got to be accountable. You got to take action, because nobody's coming to rescue you. And I think with that sentiment, man, and those 3 pieces of advice, you got to knock down your first alarm, bud.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah,
I like what you're doing, man.
I appreciate it. Hey, if anybody's looking to learn more about you or have some questions for you, where can they find you?
Well, they can email me at lukemans@hotmail.com. Hotmail, very vintage. Or get a hold of you, and they can get a hold of me that way.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you and I think there's like 2 other people that still have Hotmail addresses. So it should be easy to track you down. But no, yeah, I'll link all that stuff in the show notes. And folks, if you're looking to learn more about Prop B, if you're looking to learn more about real estate or just how to get on the path, give me a call, look me up, and I'll put you in touch with Luke. But hey, man, again, I want to thank you, Luke, for your time today. I want to thank you and your lovely bride for all the work that you're doing out there to keep everybody safe. I hope we're kind of pushing towards the end of this thing. Yeah, thanks, man.
No, thank you, man. Appreciate the support. Love doing it.
Right on. All right. Thanks again to my brother Luke for meeting me here in the bullpen, man. Luke is one of those guys that just grinds away. He doesn't talk a big game. He just gets out there and takes action. I have absolutely no doubt that if he keeps on that same path, he's going to have nothing but success in the future. If you'd like to learn more about Luke, you can find him on his email, lukemans@hotmail.com. That's mans with 2 N's at hotmail.com. If you'd like to learn more about us, we're on Facebook at The FIREhouse. That's f.i.r.ehouse. On Instagram, the _fire_house. On LinkedIn, The FIREhouse Investors, or any place you listen to podcasts. If you learned something today and you'd like to hear more, please like, share, and subscribe. But no matter what you do, take this information, go out there, and get some. Station F.